I'm going to start off by talking about Zepl's collaboration sharing capabilities. Then we'll dive into a Zepl notebook, and that's really the interface for using Python as well as other programming languages on the platform, and show how easy it is to get started. And then I want to talk about some of the cloud computing features that we've built into Zepl that really set us apart and allow our solution to be cost effective and allow our solution to scale with large data set or large data volume needs. And then we'll talk about our data connections and visualizations, and really bringing those capabilities that your data analysts are used to directly to more of the data science landscape. All right. So let me jump over here to this window. Just want to make sure, Adrian, just want to confirm you're able to see my Zepl screen here, right?
Yes, it's coming in completely clear.
Okay, right on. So for those of you who maybe are not familiar with Zepl, what we've built is a data science platform to make it really easy for your data scientists to start using notebooks in a containerized architecture or containerized manner, all within the cloud. So number one thing that eliminates the need for managing any infrastructure or troubleshooting, when your systems maybe go down. Oftentimes we hear that users bump into each other when they're queuing their jobs on shared resources. And also, those shared resources are often large clusters that have a lot of different machines that are always on and running. Taking a containerized approach, which I'll explain a little bit more further down the demo, but the containerized approach really allows us to be cost effective so that you only pay for resources when you need them, instead of having an always on compute resource that is shared amongst your team. Now, the first thing that we focused on when developing Zepl, and that I want to relate back to those trends, is around collaboration. So there are several key collaboration elements here inside of Zepl. The first one is around access controls. So when you have multiple users interacting with different notebooks inside of whatever technology that you're using, you want to make sure that you can lock down permissions or provide privileges to users as you're working. And so let me go ahead and dive down the page here. We have a number of different spaces. These spaces are one way to group together notebooks, and maybe you have a specific project you're working on for a marketing team, or maybe you're doing an experimentation on different data science algorithms or models. I have this machine learning and experiment space that I've created. You can see that I'm sharing this with 5 different users, and these users here are actually grouped together as either individuals. So you can see Elise, who's our head of marketing. I've given her read access to all of the notebooks in this space. I don't want her to be able to actually run my notebooks, but I want her to be able to consume the output of them for the marketing campaigns and results that we're producing for her. However, on the other hand, I've got a group of users that are grouped together in this team called my data science team. And because we work oftentimes either within the same notebooks, or we will do a lot of copying and cloning the notebooks that each other have worked on. In this data science team, we want to provide access and privileges for all of the core capabilities, like cloning notebooks, running them, as well as being able to roll back to previous versions and so forth. Okay, it looks like, oh, Adrian, yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll be monitoring them, and Adrian will be as well. So that's the first challenge around collaboration, right? Making sure that notebooks are securely shared and shared in an intentional way. Notebooks, as I'm referring to them, can be synonymous with reports that you're generating, because we can also share these notebooks as a report. And so if I drill down on one of them, like the stock forecasting notebook that I've been working on, here you'll see that there's an introductory explanation of what the notebook is, all the different stages and steps in it. We'll walk through different parts of this over the course of the demo here. But what I want to focus on is being able to share these notebooks reports output as a publishable link. So the second part of sharing is what we talked about, having multiple teams working together, interdisciplinary teams, where it becomes really easy to be able to share information and status updates and reports all through a published link. And this is something that we've seen a wide adoption of from all of our customers, is being able to share links with, most of the time it's either with business users or executives that want updates on the actual status of different projects. Instead of taking screenshots and putting them in PowerPoints, this is a really fast, easy way to get that information out.
Zach, let me interrupt you for 1 second. We've got a question, if you don't mind answering it.
Yeah.
Where is this app? Go ahead.
Yeah. The question is, where does this app reside, like some cloud environments? Yeah, great question. So Zepl, everything that you're going to interact with is going to be hosted in AWS. But as far as the actual service that we're providing, those resources are transparent to the user, so you don't have to worry about about where we're architected. But for information, yeah, we're built on top of AWS, and we use those services as our backbone to provide this, the front end and back end services to our customer. Good question. Yeah, and a natural follow-up question: can this be hosted on-prem? We don't offer an on-prem deployment option anymore. This is something that we had done at the genesis of our company, but we've really, like some of the trends that, one of the trends that we're seeing is there's a big push to the cloud, and that's really the direction that we're going. For high security purposes or different types of companies like banks or sometimes healthcare, there are stringent requirements on the cloud environments. And so we do offer a virtual private Zepl offering, which would be a dedicated cloud hosted service dedicated for one customer. But those are really the two options. So
Exactly. Let me perhaps there's something. This question reminded me of another conversation we had recently.
Please.
Anshul, just to add to that, with the on-prem, some of the, by definition, if we were to try to deploy something like this on-prem, it has its inherent limitations. Then, as part of the big part of what it is that we're providing is cloud computing. So I think there needs to be more discussions around, like, what does on-prem look like for you and your organizations, and what the requirements are like. Because if it's a cloud computing that is part of the service, it's hard. We can't think of a feasible way to provide that in an on-prem manner. So yeah, there's a bit of that's part of the issue of that we run into.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Why I asked is, like, right now we use AWS, and we use SageMaker for our ML use cases, and we have been using it for like 2 years now. I'm not necessarily asking for on-prem, but when we use it on AWS, we have control over the cloud. Like, we have our VPC, like it's managed by us. So that's the thing. Like if you said there is one other offering where you can manage, like you'll be having a dedicated cloud environment, right? So uh, some of the data is like finance data. So for that, it would be, uh, it's more sensitive.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like we like discussing sort of like those like specific concerns, right? Like the data sensitivity, privacy issues that may lead to asking for virtual cloud deployment. So, short answer to that is like we have offered virtual cloud services as well, where we deploy into the cloud environment that our customers own and manage. But then if the main concern is around like data privacy, security, if we dive into a bit more about how our containers are architectured and how they only get spun up during the duration of a job and they spin down automatically and basically disappear, and all the data that was associated with this never permanently stored. That also tends to solve a lot of the concerns from legal and security perspective. But yeah, happy to share more information about this as well.
Yeah, thanks. We can go ahead with the demo, and if I have any follow-up questions, I can maybe connect with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Anshul. I appreciate the question, and I think that is a good transition or segue here to talk about where does this code run? Where does your code run, and how does our architecture on the back end support the scale of your different projects that you're working on? So Paul had mentioned that we don't actually store any data based off of our containerized approach. So what he's referring to is here. You'll notice that for this notebook, we have a container that is in the stopped state. And Zepl takes an approach where each notebook has a dedicated container that can be, that can be configured for the life cycle of the notebook as needed. And so what I mean by that is inside of each notebook, you can set up different resources for that container. And you can see that you can start small and scale all the way up to really large containers, depending on the data volumes that you need. And so this is going to be processing, at our largest 256 gigabytes of memory for this one notebook. This methodology allows us to not have to share resources with other jobs, eliminates the need to queue jobs, and if something fails, it fails gracefully within its own isolated bucket or isolated container. The second thing around data privacy is because the containers are ephemeral, right? They spin up and they spin down. And when they spin down, anything that lives in memory is permanently erased. So this becomes a really strong requirement, I think, for a lot of secure data environments where Zepl doesn't ever store your data. We want that to be handled by your data store, your data warehouse. And we're not in the business of storing data. We want to be able to make it really easy to process that data as quick as possible and then spin down in a cost-effective way. So this is one lever that you have in order to maintain that data privacy as well as the scale of the container for whatever job you're running. And on the back end, this is all happening in elastic compute. So we have our own resources that we spin up and spin down on the back end that's invisible to the user, and all you have to worry about here is the resource sizes. Okay. So one final point to make about the resources is I hear a lot of times that data science teams struggle with getting access to larger resources or larger compute containers or nodes when they need them. Oftentimes there's an IT bottleneck or a long ticket process, submitting tickets to engineering to get these resources spun up. We want to do away with that completely. And so, the data scientist, whoever's working on this project, has all of those options at their fingertips. All right. So that's how we support, the runtime environment with inside of Zepl. We talked about Python being a huge programming language for adoption in data science, as well as adoption for data analysts that are starting to explore data science. Within the Zepl notebook, we have support for multiple programming languages: Python, R, and Spark, a Spark environment. So that might be PySpark, Spark R, or Scala. You can see here that for each different paragraph that you might write, you can specify the programming language. So Python, in this case here, if I scroll down, you'll notice that this is how you would run code for Spark, R, and even writing SQL directly inside of the notebooks here. Okay, so again, we want to make it extremely fast and easy for you to start getting access to the right resources with the right programming language that you might be using. And in this case, what I'm doing here, I'll scroll back up, is I'm first setting up a Python environment with all of the libraries that I need. You'll notice that I'm installing 2 libraries, and I'm importing about 5 or 6. Now, if I'm importing libraries, I would have to have installed them. Well, we build out inside of each notebook or container, we build out what we call an image. And an image is a pre-package of pre-installed libraries for all of those programming language that we just mentioned. And you can customize these libraries to support whatever Python environment that you might be running. So just to share with you really quick what that looks like, this is something that you would have to do and have understanding of command line tools to be able to build this out yourself. But if you want to actually load all of your Python packages, here's one way to do it inside of Zepl, is actually build out one of these images. And once you build this, you can share that across all of your notebooks. And it really makes sure that everyone is operating with the exact same versions of all the same libraries. So you never have that inconsistency between, does it work on my machine? Does it work on your machine? And that really helps support sharing as well. Okay. Typically in the open source world, building packages takes a long time to load every time that you have to run a job, and you also have to maintain some sort of shared Git environment, source control environment, where you're tracking who has what libraries and what versions installed. And so this is how Zepl handles this for all of our notebooks. All right. Now, we talked about, at the beginning part of the presentation, we talked about how the data analyst is moving towards data science and starting to ask more advanced questions. With inside the notebook framework here that we've built out, we have a number of we have all of the ways that you would need to execute your data science code inside the notebook. But just as you would with maybe an open source notebook like Jupyter or Apache Zeppelin. But where I'm going with this is data analysts are typically used to using more UI driven tools. So with inside of Zepl, we've put a lot of time and attention on how do we make visualizations a first-class citizen and a big part of the actual notebook experience. So here I'm writing a simple Python query. So I'm connecting to data. It just happens to be Snowflake. It could be a number of different data sources. Then I'm writing a SQL statement here, and I'm actually fetching all of those results and bringing them back into a pandas data frame. And then I'm passing that data frame into a show function that we have built in. And within side of the show function, we'll render an output to the screen, which provides access to all these different types of charts, as well as a Plotly charting editor, which has a really nice UI to make it super easy and fast to interact with, with your data. And so, for example, here, if I wanted to add another line to this line chart, or maybe render a different type of trace on top of it, here are all the different options that you have. Okay, so again, bringing the UI elements much closer to the data analyst inside of the notebook to bring familiar experience to them. And you can start to interact with your data. Here are all of the columns in my data frame. And so I might want to add another line here for my date and potentially all of my my open values, for example. And then anything that you do in the Plotly library, you can do within the UI. You can update different colors, features, add overlays, charts, and data labels, as well as do some rudimentary transformations around filtering, splitting, aggregation, and sorting. All right. So, I can share my experience with this, that this has definitely saved me tons and tons of time of trying to look up how to actually render different types of charts using code. And this simplifies it down into one line here for any of the programming languages. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about, since we just touched on connecting to data, I'll scroll back up here, is what is Zepl's methodology for connecting to data? We have a number of different ways to do this. Of course, if you have code that you've written to connect to different APIs, you can do that in Zepl. But you also might want to take advantage of our data source connections. Let me show you what that looks like. So here I've got our marketplace, our Snowflake marketplace stock data that I was talking about at the beginning of the call. And we're making a connection to our Snowflake data warehouse. In order to do that, we need to add in some account information and so forth. This can be specified in code, but we also specify it here within inside of this connection. So this connection can be created once and multiple users can use it. The real benefit of this, or one of the real benefits of this, is being able to hide your credentials so you don't expose them in clear text in your code, but also be able to have multiple users interact with this data source by putting in their own unique username and password. So if I shared this with Paul or Adrian, in order for them to get access to the marketplace data, they would have to put in their username and password here. And also the data governance and security setup in Snowflake is always honored by whatever role or permissions that this user has. And of course, where possible, we support single sign-on. So if you have a single sign-on flow, this becomes extremely easy for multiple users to start authenticating with just this one credential. Okay. All right, awesome. So let me scroll down here, and we've touched on visualizations, and I've got a few examples, but I'll skip past this. And some of the exciting parts of data science is actually using these models and different algorithms and libraries to in this case, create a forecast. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking all of that stock information and applying it to a time series forecasting model. There's two that I've used in my past research and work. One is the Facebook profit model, and the other is an ARIMA model. In this example, I'm just showcasing some basic code to show how you can use Zepl to take data from our Snowflake marketplace, bring it into the Zepl notebook, grab the specific columns that we want to train on, then we fit that model and ultimately calculate a stock price projection out for the next 365 days. Now, I wouldn't go to my grave saying that this is the best model ever created, but this is it is a start. And oftentimes from here, what I see a lot of our customers doing is this is when they'll actually stop. They will do one of three things. They'll add specific comments in line here for different team members to take a look at the model accuracy and start to collaborate on the work that they're doing. The next thing that you might do is, like we mentioned before, publish this notebook and share the results with your team. But then also you might actually come up with a categorical model, and you want to write those results back into your underlying data store, whether it's a blob storage on S3, whether it's a data warehouse, BigQuery, Snowflake, Redshift, and so forth. You might want to set this up to run on a schedule to repeat that process and update your underlying data store. So those are really, I think the three next steps that commonly I see users taking is starting to collaborate through comments, starting to publish their notebooks, run them on a schedule, and ultimately write the results back into their fundamental underlying data store. There was a question earlier, and you might be using other technologies or other tools for your team. A lot of use cases might require you to build or conduct your experiments in the Zepl notebook or in a notebook environment, and that's how you conduct your iterative process. You test out the hypotheses that you have, and ultimately you end up with a model. And that model needs to be used in some sort of real-time API endpoint or something like that. Today, Zepl doesn't offer a model serving technology. It's something that we're working on. It's how can we take a notebook and parameterize it, set it up for a public API endpoint to be able to receive inputs and then produce an output. But what we have done is really easily you can take those model files that you produce in Zepl and export them to whatever model serving framework that you're using or technology that you're using. And that process becomes really easy to actually integrate in with the rest of your pipeline, your data science tools. So we don't want to bring you into Zepl and have you operate inside of a box. We want to be able to play well in the sandbox with others. And this is one way that I've seen that commonly done. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and take a pause here and kind of recap what we've covered so far. At the beginning, we talked about a number of trends that we're seeing, and as we started through the demo, we started talking about collaboration and sharing capabilities and how to turn your notebooks into a one-click share URL to start proliferating your information, reports, results to the rest of your organization. We also talked about securely sharing these notebooks through access control, providing different types of users, different types of access. We then jumped into the notebook and showed just how easy it is to start writing Python. There's a two-click startup for you to start writing code. The only things that you need to do is create a new notebook and make sure that you have your notebook settings and container set up. All of these are defaults, and click run. From there, we talked about visualizations and bringing the data analyst closer to where the data scientist is and the questions that they're starting to ask, and providing familiar tools for UI-driven visualizations and so forth. And then we touched on our containerized architecture and how Zepl spins up a container per notebook which really gives a cost advantage. So you never have resources running when you don't need them, and you can be guaranteed resources, and you aren't queued up in fighting other users to get your jobs run. And then finally, we walked through the notebook example and touched on a specific type of model and what you might do next from within inside of these notebooks, setting them up to run on a schedule, writing data back out of Zepl, or integrating with other tools that you might have.
Zach, let me interrupt you for 1 second. We have a question from the audience.
Please.
Does Zepl offer the possibility to create these cells and generate an exportable markdown product on a regular schedule?
Sure. So Bethany, thanks for the question. I want to make sure I understand. We have a number of ways to export these notebooks. So I'll walk through what that looks like, and then if maybe I missed the mark, please let me know. So
I'm actually thinking of, can you export not a notebook, but a report? Like if you've ever worked in our studio, right? You can go in and do all of your R code, then you can write Markdown and generate a physical HTML or PDF report that encompasses all of the calculations and those graphics, so that I'm looking for something I could automate so that my marketing team could see these reports. They would update monthly. They could share them with their customers, but they weren't in geek format.
No geek format for me. Okay, two ways to do that. I totally get it. The way that I would recommend in Zepl is to use our different view formats. So you kind of get the best of both worlds here, where you get to write your code in your notebook and you get it ready for that scheduled delivery. And then you take whatever output that you get, and you can set this notebook to show as a report mode. And the report mode will hide. I'll scroll through this. It'll hide all the code, or the geek mode, like you said. I like that. So then you can deliver these reports to your marketing team in the form of a URL. And anytime they go to that URL, they'll see the live view of the last time that this notebook ran. So they won't have to download anything. Nothing will be offline. It'll always be up to date, and you can hide all your code really easily without having to generate something on the side or separate. And so if just to kind of fill in the gap there, if I copy this and click apply, I'll send in the chat this published link, and then everyone can see what that link looks like once you actually publish a notebook. These charts are going to be interactive as well, just the same way they would be inside of the notebook. The only thing people won't be able to do is actually run your code from this view. Would that be useful for what you're looking for? Or were you thinking something different?
Yeah, I think if I can weed out those top sections that say like stock forecasting, environmental setup, query data source, I could make that useful.
Yeah. These banners here are they're just cells of code that I've produced. So you definitely don't need those there.
Perfect.
You can also hide inside the notebook. You can hide outputs for each cell. So maybe when you're doing your development, you want to see some output, but when you're done and ready for report, you can actually just hide those outputs.
This is pretty cool. Can you also schedule regular running? So I could say update this daily or update this weekly, and then when they log in every week, they would get fresh report results? Or would I have to go open it and run it myself?
No, you can definitely set up schedules. So we have a scheduler here. If you wanted to do a cron expression for very specific types of schedules, we'll manage all of that scheduling for you. And then I just canceled out of that just to show you the admin, or whoever has user privileges to see and set up scheduling. You'll be able to look at all of your jobs that you have and see things like, is this scheduled to continue running? Maybe it's been paused or stopped, and what are all of the iterations or runs that I've had? So there's the management aspect, which I'm kind of showing you here, and then definitely you can schedule these to run per notebook.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Absolutely. What other questions do we have from the group here? Okay. Seems like maybe there are no more questions. I'll stay on the Zoom here. That wraps up the rest of my demo that I wanted to share. We'll definitely, yeah, we can definitely share the link to this presentation. Absolutely, we'll share that with with everyone. I'll stay on for the next 10 minutes. If anyone has any questions that maybe pop up, feel free to ask them. But I hope that this was beneficial for you guys, covering some 2021 trends that we are definitely seeing in the data science world, and how Zepl is helping take advantage of those trends and really work for your business. So for everyone who is engaged, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll be taking questions.
Zach, we have a couple of questions here. I just want to make sure did we address the one, could we schedule this to run regularly and update?
Yeah, we just talked about that with Bethany's, and then it looks like Jeremy is asking a question around repositories. Jeremy, do you mind going off mute and maybe elaborating on your question? And if not, that's okay. I can take the question as I'm understanding it. So Jeremy, as far as repositories go, I think that there's a few ways to take this question. One is, do we take snapshots or do any kind of version control or tracking of notebook runs? Oh, he says basically to look at my data sources. As far as data sources go, yeah, let me go back out of my report mode and go into default. There's a few ways to manage data sources and also bring files to Zepl. So data sources are going to be attached to notebooks here. And this is how you would actually get access to those data objects inside of your notebook. We can also upload files directly to each individual notebook. This is a big push for us as well. Continuing to bring that experience that you expect as maybe an open source user or a local developer, where you have the ability to upload, download files wherever you need. We're expanding the file upload, download capabilities, but you can definitely bring your quick files here, maybe a CSV or an image file or something like that. You can bring them into your notebooks. And then as far as managing all of those things, with inside of our resources, you can manage all of your data sources over here in this screen. And I think this is maybe less so for the user, but more so for the management or administration of the platform. So you can keep track of who's using what data sources, how many notebooks are they attached to, and things like that. So I hope I answered your question. Let me know if you want me to elaborate. Yeah, absolutely. And if Jeremy, if there's a use case or a project that you're thinking of around getting files uploaded or getting access to data, please, yeah, let me know. Be happy to talk about that further.
Okay, just to recap, if there are no additional questions, we will be doing a follow-up email and we will be sending the recording out. And when you get the email, Zach and Paul Shin, who is our product advocate, will be copied on there. We'd welcome an opportunity to dive a little deeper in terms of your use case to see what we could do to potentially help you. And let me turn it back over to Zach.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll stay on for another 5 minutes. And if there are any more questions, please let me know. But thank you all for your time. I hope that this was productive. And Bethany, to your question around credits and cost. So as far as Zepl consumption goes, we will meter your consumption based off of code runtime. So anytime that you spin up a container, we'll track down to the second how long that you actually are running that container. So some advantages to that is our containers will spin up and then they'll spin down. Either manually you can shut them down, or they'll shut down automatically. So you don't have to worry about maybe leaving an AWS resource on all weekend and getting charged a crazy bill. That's something that we have cost management built in. As far as the credits go, Paul, are you still on? Do you want to address that that question for Bethany?
Sure. So currently on our website as well, you will find that we have, well, so first of all, like we can follow with the detailed credit requirements per container sizes. So Zach went over the container options that you have, the resources that you'll have to run various jobs. And it's flexible enough that you can easily choose ones that you need without sort of over provisioning resources. So each of them have different credits attached to them. We can follow up with you with those details. Since there are a lot of different resources we offer, it's probably better in writing that we share those credits. And then currently each credit of Zepl credit costs $4. And that's, and the credit sort of cost that you will see is based on 1 hour runtime. So as Zach mentioned, we will divide that into terms of units of seconds when we actually measure your usage. Yeah, that's how it is. But yeah, it's probably best that I share this in writing with you so that it's clear.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, Bethany, if you have any follow-up questions, let us know and we can definitely follow up with you over email.
Great, we'll wrap this up. Everyone, thank you for attending. Happy New Year. Again, look for a follow-up with a recording later this afternoon, potentially early tomorrow morning. We appreciate you giving us the time to share with you Zepl, and we look forward to learning more about your use case. Have a great day.